The confession you are about to hear is an actual tape recording.
All right, read the statement, please.
I make this confession of my own free will because it is true. There has not been any force or violence used upon my person to induce me to make these statements. Without promise of immunity or reward or gratuity, I confess.
You understand, of course, that your statement will be made public through the radio program Confession.
I do.
And that your name for the purpose of this broadcast will be Leo J. Fowler.
Yes.
You understand all this?
Yes, sir, I understand.
You are listening to Confession. This case history of the subject referred to as Leo J. Fowler is a matter of documented record. You will hear the story of his crime experience as told in his own words.
All right, Leo. Go ahead, please.
I don't like anything that's quiet. When it's quiet, I get restless. Nervous, like, you know. My aunt's place was too quiet. They shouldn't have sent me back there.
They?
Yeah, I did 2 years in reform school when I was a kid. I was 18 when I got out.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt was okay. She treated me okay. But the people around there figured I was one of those problem kids. Kid with a record. They were polite, but, well, you know.
Sure, I know. Go on.
My aunt owned a house in Torrance. I used to hitch rides over to San Pedro around the docks, looking for guys I could talk to. Around the docks there, you can usually find guys like that.
Hey,
Yeah?
got another one of them cigarettes?
Sure. Here you are.
Thanks.
Light?
Got one. I've seen you around here before. You work on the docks?
No. You?
Nah, just bumming around. Just got out of the jug.
No kidding.
18 months. Got out in a year, though.
Huh? What'd you do?
Stick up. The guy got tough, I had to slug him. Guess I hurt him more than I wanted to.
Oh, you ain't bad for that.
No? What do you know about it?
I put in 2 years.
You?
Sure. Juvenile training.
What do you know? Juvenile training. So you've been trained, hey, kid? You, learn any good tricks?
I learned how to slug a guy without hurting him too much. I can jimmy a window without denting the wood. I can cut glass with a pocket knife and some sand.
Well, what do you know? Juvenile training, eh? Come on, Juvenile. I'll buy you a drink.
And that was how you met him?
Yeah. He told me his name was Phil. He bought a couple of drinks in a bar where everybody knew him.
I see.
Well, then another guy, a guy named Monty, came in, and he bought some more. They were a couple of years older than me, but I knew some angles from reform school they'd never heard of. A few more drinks, and I was ready to show them off. That's how I get after I have too many. Anyway, we picked out a grocery store Phil knew about and lifted a little more than $300. We divided it even.
What did you do then, Leo?
We started for San Francisco on a freight train. It was a slow freight, and well, I guess it was about 12 hours out of L.A. We were getting pretty jumpy. Monty went to sleep, and well, Phil had some dice, so we started shooting craps. That wasn't so good.
There's $40 in the pot, kid. Cover it.
Nah, not for 40.
Come on, kid. Cover the pile.
Forget it. I'm busted.
What do you mean, busted?
Busted. That's what I mean. Busted.
You still got a roll left. I know you got a roll left.
Look, that's my business, huh?
What's the matter, kid? Saving some to send back home to Auntie?
Shut up.
Why so worried about your aunt? Won't your mother take your kind of money?
Shut up. I said it. Shut up.
Hey, Monty, look. A juvenile ain't a mama's boy after all. Mama don't want...
One more crack and I'll knock you clear off this train. I swear I'll...
That stuff mama's boy are all... Like you... Leo, quit it! Leo!
We never got to San Francisco. They stopped the train just south of Salinas. The railroad cops were waiting. They told me Phil was dead.
Go on.
Well, they pulled me in for murder, but they changed that to involuntary manslaughter. And they sent me up to San Quentin. I was old enough for a big prison now.
How long were you at San Quentin?
Well, I was up at Q about a year. And they set up that guidance center. You know, it's one of those state deals where they give you what they call mental maturity tests.
Mm-hmm.
And tests to see what kind of work you like to do and what kind of work you're good at, you know?
Yes, I understand.
So for 3 days, they had us taking these tests. And then they took us one at a time to visit the counselors.
You know why you're here, Leo?
I knocked a guy off a train.
No, I mean here at this guidance center.
I don't know.
We're trying to find out all we can about you, Leo, so we can help you. We particularly want to help you because you've got a good record up here.
I keep out of trouble. I mean, up here, I keep out of trouble.
Why just up here?
I don't know. I feel like I can handle things better up here. Maybe like I have more control over things. On the outside, it's different. It's not so easy.
I see your mother died when you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And your father?
Who knows? He just walked out. My aunt took care of me. She was okay.
According to these reports, you held a job while you were going to school. Were you trying to help her out?
I was trying to make some dough so I could quit school and take off. That's when I went to work at the Penny Arcade.
Mm-hmm. And you had some trouble there.
My boss at the arcade kept saying I stole money from the change booth.
Did you?
Nah. That was just his excuse to knock a few bucks off my pay every week. One day I got hold of a bottle. It was the first I ever got drunk. I wanted to get even with my boss, so I stole the cash box.
And that's when you were sent to juvenile training school?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. It says here you work best when you work alone, handy with tools, and you have latent aesthetic tendencies.
What's all that mean?
Well, it means we're going to teach you to support yourself instead of letting the state do it.
All right, go on, Leo.
Well,
You were saying they gave you these tests.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, after they sent me to school up there at Q, they taught me how to bind books. Something I'd never even thought of before. It's a pretty tricky deal, binding books, you know.
I imagine. And how long did that take?
Well, I took the book binding course for 2.5 years. I got pretty good at it. They started giving me a little more rope around there, and that's when Mixer showed up.
Mixer?
Yeah. Mixer was the con man in our cell block. The fast talker, official greeter.
Oh, yes.
He wanted me to use the tools they gave me to make shivs for the other cons.
You turned his proposition down?
That's right. Inside the prison, behind the bars, I could handle things. No liquor around, that helped. I could take care of myself, you know. I had a good record. 6 more months, and I was up for parole.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it came through pretty fast. Before I knew it, I was outside again. Outside the bars. The first thing I did was to check in with my parole officer in San Francisco. A pretty nice guy named Torben.
Hi, Leo. Come on in. Sorry to keep you waiting. How are you?
Pretty good, Mr. Torben.
Sit down.
Thanks.
You heard about your job, didn't you?
Yeah, my aunt wrote me about it. A friend of hers or something.
He was pretty impressed with those books you bound.
How's he feel about ex-cons?
He's willing to hire you, Leo. Just give him good work. He'll forget you ever had a record.
Maybe.
And you forget your record, too. But just don't forget about me. Check in here regularly.
Sure.
And, Leo, if you get into a jam, if you need money for an emergency or anything like that, call me. Don't ever be afraid to call me. All right?
Sure.
Good. Now go on downtown and meet your employer. What's the matter?
Nothing. I look okay?
Sure, you look fine. Something bothering you?
No, it... Well, I'll see you later, Mr. Torben. Maybe Mr. Torben knew, and maybe he didn't. But I knew what was bothering me.
And what was bothering you?
I was on the outside now. Outside the bars, I mean. It wasn't like prison at all. You didn't look up and see a guard looking down at you from the top of the wall. Well, nobody looked, because nobody really cared. It scared me, you know?
Scared you?
Yeah, I kept thinking nobody cared. I couldn't shake it out of my mind. Nobody cared. That was the trouble. Nobody cared.
You are listening to Confession. Before continuing with a documented record of the subject referred to as Leo J. Fowler, the National Broadcasting Company is honored to present Mr. Richard A. McGee, Director of Corrections, Department of Corrections, State of California. Mr. McGee.
The pattern developing in tonight's case appears to be that of a recidivist. Statistically, we must unfortunately expect a certain percentage of institutionalized criminals to fall back into prior criminal habits after release from prison. It is the aim of all of us in correctional work, however, to minimize the number of these recidivists through rehabilitation while they are in our custody. The goal of correctional officers and parole officers alike is to substitute socially adjusted habits for the habits that lead to crime. Rehabilitation of the individual is society's only permanent protection against crime.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Now to continue with Confession and the documented record of the subject referred to as Leo J. Fowler.
Continue now, Leo.
I guess I was wrong, thinking nobody cared. Because Mr. Torben was pretty interested. But that's what he was getting paid for. And, well, anyway, I started working at my job the next day.
Was this with a bookbinding firm?
Yeah. Well, it's not exactly a firm. Just a guy who had a place near Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
He did special work, rare books, first editions, that kind of stuff, you know. People with dough.
And how'd you make out?
Oh, I guess he liked my work okay. At least he paid me. That first paycheck looked pretty good, too.
I imagine.
Well, you know how it is. All of a sudden, you have a few bucks in your pocket. You can't help wanting to celebrate a little. It was a hot night anyway, and the drink tasted good.
Hey, fella.
Me?
Yeah, you. I'm looking at you, ain't I?
It's pretty hard to tell.
Oh, you're a wise guy, huh? You ever work in a library, wise guy? You worked in a library, all right.
I said beat it.
A library run by the good old state of California. And that's where I seen you. Pick some books in the library and stir.
Bartender, give me a beer down at the other end of the bar.
What's the matter? You're not good enough to drink with?
Look, if you don't get off my back...
If there's anything I hate, it's a jailbird who thinks he's better than another jailbird.
Don't call me that!
Oh. Looky what I got. See? Push a button. Knife blade, Pop.